Perek today. Daf Tzadik Vav Amud Aleph. Ha-Zeirik M'Rishus HaYachid L'Rishus HaRabim. You threw an item from Rishus HaYachid to Rishus HaRabim. Or M'Rishus HaRabim L'Rishus HaYachid. You threw the item from Rishus HaRabim to the Rishus HaYachid. Chayiv. You're chayiv for the Malacha of Itzah. The Chiddush of the Mishnah Bepashtus is that the Malacha of Itzah is not only if you carried it out, when you walked out with it, or like we had in the first Mishnah of the Masechta, where you stretched out your hand and you gave it to a ani that's standing outside, but you threw it out. Throwing is also the way the Malacha is done. How about another case? Mirishus HaYachid l'Rishus HaYachid. If you took, or if you threw an item from one Rishus HaYachid to another Rishus HaYachid, or Rishus HaRabim be'emtza, and there's a Rishus HaRabim in the middle. So you're throwing something across the street with a Rishus HaRabim in between. Rabbi Akiva Machayev. Rabbi Akiva says for this you'd also be chayiv. Even though l'chayra, this is not the form of the Malach of Eitzah that we know of. Malach of Eitzah is either from Rishus HaYachid to Rishus HaRabim or from Rishus HaRabim to Rishus HaYachid. Here it's going from one Rishus HaYachid to another Rishus HaYachid with a Rishus HaRabim in between. Rabbi Akiva says Yechayev. The Gemara will explain the source of Rabbi Akiva, as Rashi says. And v'chachamim paitrim. Chachamim say that you're potter. This is not the malacha. It's going from Rishus HaYachid to Rishus HaYachid, so this is not the malacha. So Chachamim say you're potter. Sagt the Mishnah weiter, Keitzad. How would you be chayiv according to the Chachamim? Going from one Rishus HaYachid to another Rishus HaYachid. That's what Rashi says. The Keitzad is coming to explain the opinion of the Chachamim. Actually, Taisus over here brings from the Yerushalmi that you take out the word Keitzad, because really the next case of the Mishnah is sort of just a case for itself. But it's according to the opinion of the Chachamim. So, Shtei Gizus Terais. If you have two balconies, Zu Keneged Zu B'Rishus HaRabim. The one is across, the other in Rishus HaRabim. Okay, so you have across the street, a balcony across the street, so there's a Rishus HaRabim in between. Hamaishit v'hazayrik mizu lezu. If you're passing over something from one balcony to another across the street, or you're throwing it from your balcony to the other balcony, potter. Then you potter. How about hoyishteyen b'dyuta achas? If you have two balconies that are on the same side of the street, and you're passing it over to the other balcony, and in between the two balconies there's Rishus HaRabim. So they're hanging out over the Rishus HaRabim, so you're passing it from one balcony to another, and there's Rishus HaRabim in between.
How's that a different case?
One second. So then, Hamoishit Chayiv, if you pass over something from that balcony to the next, right near you, you're going to be Chayiv. V'hazayrek Potter. But if you threw it to that balcony that's right next to your balcony, then you're going to be Potter. Now the question is, like you just asked, it's basically the same thing like giving it or throwing it to the balcony across the street. The only difference is, are you passing it over across the street or are you passing it over right next to you? Or in another way to put it, where Rashi and the Gemara puts it is, in the case where you're passing it over across the street, the item is going across the width of the Rishus HaRabim, the Reichav of the Rishus HaRabim. When you're passing it across near a balcony that's on the same side of the street, the item is passing in the length of the Rishus HaRabim. But otherwise, it's mamish the same kind of malacha. But nevertheless, this is the chiddush of this instance, which is also called moishit. This is a chiddush of moishit, that only if it passes through the length of the Rishus HaRabim Yachayev, not if it passes through the width of the Rishus HaRabim. And what's the reason for this? Because this is the way it was done in the Mishkan. This is exactly the way it was done in the Mishkan. That's what the Mishnah explains here now. Through the Rishus HaRabim. B'dyuta achas, you have two balconies with a little bit of Rishus HaRabim in between.
That little Rishus HaRabim is not called Siddur Rishus HaRabim, it's not called...
No.
It's a real Rishus HaRabim?
No, yeah, it's hanging over. Yeah. The people, it's high enough, huh?
If it's Derech HaRabim, then there's Derech HaRabim, that's Derech.
No, there's no difference in the Havana of what this malacha is about. There's really no difference. The only difference is in the mitzias of whether you're passing through the Reichav of Rishus HaRabim or you're passing through the Eirech of the Rishus HaRabim, because in this way it was done in the Mishkan, and in this way it was not.
According to this Sfar, if you walk down to Rishus HaRabim, the Reichav,
okay, 1 second. So just one second. First let's finish what it says here in the Mishnah. Shekach Chaysa Avedas HaLeviim. This is the way the Aveda of the Leviim was with loading the Agalas of the Mishkan. Shtei agalois zu achazu. There were two wagons, that one in front or one in back of the other, b'rishus harabim, that was there lined up in the rishus harabim. Maishitin akrashim mizu lezu. They would pass over the krashim from one wagon to another wagon that was in front of it. Avaloi zarkin, they would not throw the krashim, they would pass it from one to the other. So the way Rashi explains this is when they were dismantling the Mishkan. So they had the agolas lined up in front, heading in the direction that they were going to be going. And these agolas, how many agolas were there for the krashim? There were 4 agolas. They were lined up 1, 2, 1, 2. Right? That's how they were lined up, heading in the direction that they were going in. So when the Leviim were disassembling the Mishkan, so one Levi brought down the krashim to the first agola, and then it was not passed over to an agola next to it. There was no reason to pass it over to an agola next to it. If you brought it onto this agola, it was passed over to the agola in front of it. And they loaded up the agola in front. And then when that was full, they loaded up this agola. And the same with the next one near it. They passed it over to the one in front, and then they filled up the one here. So they never had a reason to pass over from one to the next that was near it. So now, they were, when they were passing over to the agola in front of it, they were passing over the Rishus Harabim, but they were passing over the length of the Rishus Harabim, because the agolas were set up.
The agolas went this way.
No. The agolas were headed in the direction that they were going. If they're going to set it up in a way that they were not in the position that they were headed and traveling, they're going to have to reposition it when it's already loaded and heavy. They lechatchila set it up in the position that we're going to head in. So it comes out that when they passed over the krashim, they passed it over only through the length of the Rishus Harabim and never through the width of the Rishus Harabim. Well, Mamela, this is the chiddush that you chayiv over here for this moishit today as well, if it's going through the length of the Rishus Harabim and not through the width of the Rishus Harabim. You're going to ask an obvious question, but it's so similar. It's mamish the exact same thing. Do we always do this benigeh to every other malacha, that we're so particular about how it was done in the Mishkan to this extent? The answer is no. But derech klal, by all other malachas, we're not particular to this extent. Haitzah is unique. As we'll see soon in the Gemara, Haitzah is a unique malacha that we are very particular in how it was done in the Mishkan, that you chayiv only like that and not in any other way. So a unique chiddush. So besides the chiluk of the oirach and the reichav of the Rishus Harabim, there's the other chiluk. Avaloi zarkin. When you get to the regular malacha of Haitzah, which is going from Rishus HaYachid to Rishus Harabim, or Rishus Harabim to Rishus HaYachid, that was the beginning of the Mishnah, Hazayrik. Over there, you chayiv sai for Moishit if you're passing it, or walking out with it, or even if you're throwing it. When you get to this Chiddush, it's not the regular malacha of Haitzah, because you're going from Rishus HaYachid to Rishus HaYachid through a Rishus Harabim. Here it's only Moishit when you're passing it, like it was with the Krashim, and not if you throw it. No, yes, they did. They did throw in the Mishkan, yes. So let's take a look in Rashi. Just stam loy zarkin. What does Rashi say? Why didn't they throw the krashim? The last 2 words in Rashi and the Amud, mipnei koivdan. Pasha, too heavy to throw. That's what Rashi says here. But Rashi earlier on Daf Dalet or something, I think it was, Rashi says they didn't throw the krashim because they didn't want the krashim to break. So even if they were able to throw them, but they didn't want the krashim to break. And there's a third reason that the Yerushalmi says that they didn't throw the krashim because it's not covered. It's not covered on mitzvahs or covered for the krashim. So you have 3 reasons why they didn't throw the krashim. Zok the Gemara, Mechti. Let's see, what's the pshat over here? Zrike teilde da Heitzahi. Zrike, throwing from Rishus HaYachid to Rishus Harabim, is a teilde of Heitzah. Heitzah gufe heicheksive. What is the source for the malacha of Heitzah? Amar Rabbi Yochanan, the Makra, the pasuk says, "Vayitzav Moshe, vayaviru koil b'machne." And Moshe Rabbeinu said that you should announce in the machne, and the continuation of the pasuk over there it says, "Al yasu ed malach l'turmas hakodesh vayikole ha'am mehavi," that they should announce that nobody should bring any more donations to the Mishkan. And the Yidden stopped bringing the items to the Mishkan. So the announcement of Moshe Rabbeinu was that they should not carry on Shabbos, as the Gemara is going to explain in a moment. But let me stop here a second and ask the obvious question. The Shaila the Gemara is asking here about Haitzah. Where does it say Haitzah on the Torah? Why does it wait until Daf Tzadik Vav Amud Beis to ask this question? Why not Daf Beis Amud Aleph? We learned so much about Haitzah. All of a sudden, Batzachoyv Gevekt over here. It's the question that Pnei Yeshua and many other Mefarshim ask. And the other question over here, which Tosfos asks, is why is the Gemara asking Heichek Siva? We never ask this regarding any of the Lamates Malachas. All Lamates Malachas, besides Havara, doesn't say in the Torah, they're all just learned from the Mishkan. That's the way it was done in the Mishkan. Why all of a sudden here do we need a pasuk? So Tosfos says, and Tosfos repeats this kama pamim throughout Masechta Shabbos, and Daf Beis, and over here, that it's a Malacha Grua. Haitzah, even though it was by the Mishkan, if not for the fact that in addition it was a pasuk, it's a Malacha Grua, it's a kind of Malacha where you don't see what you're accomplishing, and it would not be included in the Lamates Malachas. You have to have a pasuk to say that it's included in the Lamates Malachas. That's what the Gemara is bringing over here. So the Pnei Yeshua says, therefore the Gemara waited until here to ask this question, because this is the first time we have a Mishnah that says that Zrike is a Malacha of Haitzah. Till we were talking about carrying out. So maybe you would have thought, Haitzah is a Malacha Gru, it's not a regular Malacha, but maybe it's not even part of the regular Malachas. Maybe it's just a Halacha L'Moshe Misina that you'd be Chayev. And if it's a Halacha L'Moshe Misina, it's a kind of Malacha that has no Toildas. Only if you do it the way the Halacha L'Moshe Misina was accepted, are you Chayev, which is if you walk out with it, or if you carry it, if you stretch out your hand, but not if you throw. Because that's not the Halacha L'Moshe Misina. But now that we see that there's a Toilda of Zrike, so it is a regular Malacha of the Avos Malachas. So therefore the Gemara wants to know, what's this? Why are we considering this to be a regular Malacha? That's why the question comes up, Dafka in the Mishnah of Hazayrek. That's the Pnei Yeshua's Pshat. Okay, so now the Gemara is going to ask regarding this pasuk, is there really a source over here for this inyan of Hitzah on this pasuk?
Which words are you using in the pasuk to prove Hitzah?
It doesn't, it says, Vayaviru kol b'machne al ish v'isha al yasu oid malacha l'turmas HaKodesh, that they should not do malacha anymore. Which malacha was it referring to? Right. So he was telling them, okay, achnasa and achanami. Yeah, achnasa. Which achnasa and Hitzah is basically the same, as we'll see in the Gemara. Okay, there'll be a bit of a problem with that. Okay, well let's see now how the Gemara explains this first. So Moshe Heichen Hava Yosef. Where was Moshe Rabbeinu sitting? B'machna. He's sitting b'machna Levia. That is, he's sitting in the machna Levia where Moshe Rabbeinu lived. Machna Levia was a Rosh Hashanah. Havai. Where Moshe Rabbeinu was a machna Levia, that was considered to be a Rosh Hashanah. Why was it a Rosh Hashanah? So Rashi says because that's where everybody came to Moshe Rabbeinu to ask their questions and so on. So that was considered to be a very open place and a very busy place. And some say that from here is the source that you have to have 600,000 people for Rosh Hashanah, because there were other places where there were open places for Yidden to walk through, but there weren't necessarily 600,000 people there. By Moshe Rabbeinu, when all Yidden would come to listen to him when he spoke or to ask him questions, so there were 600,000 people there. And v'ka'amalu Yisrael, Moshe Rabbeinu says to the Yidden, "Le'tapiku v'teisim rishus hayachid." Do not take out and bring from your rishus hayachid, ditchu from your rishus hayachid, l'rishus harabim into the rishus harabim. So, fakert, it's not achnas, it's hitzah. Okay. So that was so they were bringing out from their private tents, from their own Rishus HaYachid, and they brought it out to where Moshe Rabbeinu was, which was this open plaza, sort of, that was a Rishus HaRabim. Fragt the Gemara, but omimai the Shabbos koi. How we know that Moshe Rabbeinu is saying this on Shabbos, regarding Shabbos? Dilma b'chel koi. Maybe it's a regular weekday. Mishum the shlimala malacha, or the Bachas Goy is shlimala avidita. The malacha was done. They had already enough they needed for the Mishkan. That the Malacha, they had more than enough of what they needed. And therefore, Moshe Rabbeinu is telling them, enough, we don't have to bring more. Nothing to do with Shabbos. Answers the Gemara, Gomar, Havare, Miyayim HaKippurim. We compare the Lashon that it says here, Vayaviru, to the Lashon that it says also by Yom Kippur, a Lashon of Havara. Ksiv Vayaviru Kol B'machna. Ksiv Hasam, regarding Yom Kippur, it says, Va'avarta Shefet Ruah. Also a lashon havavara, mala alam b'yom asar. Just like in that pasuk, it's talking about a day which is asar to do malacha. Avkam b'yom asar. This pasuk as well, vayaviru kol b'machna, is also talking about Shabbos. So therefore, this is the source in the pasuk for the Isser of Hitzah on Shabbos. Sagt the Gemara Ashkechan Hitzah. We find here the malach of Hitzah, Hachnasa minalan. From where do we know that Achnasa is also asar? Answers the Gemara, Svarahi. It's a Svara that it's a Tailda. As Rashi says, the Svara is that it's a Tailda. Just like all other Taildas, when you have something similar to the Av, it's a Svara that we included as well. Mechti, Mirishus l'Rishusu. What's the Malacha to take out from one Rishus to another Rishus? That's when you're doing Haitzah. Mali Afuki, Umali Yuli. What difference does it make if you're going out or if you're bringing it in? So therefore, it's a Tailda of the Malacha of Haitzah. Miu Haitzah Av Hachnasa Tailda. However, Haitzah is an Av and Hachnasa is a Tailda. So this, what it says here in the Gemara, the Ramban says that before in Daf Beis Amud Beis, it's mashma from the Gemara that Hachnasa is a Av. Because if you think about this Tailda of Hachnasa, it's not like any other Tailda where the Maisa Malacha of the Tailda is a bit different than the Av. Over here, it's mamash identical. The only nafkamina is whether you're starting in the Rishus Harabim or starting in the Rishus Hayachid, but the action of the malacha is mamash identical. So why should it be a Tailda? And the malacha, the Gemara itself uses the lashon mali afuki, mali ayuli. The point of the malacha, the action of the malacha is mamash identical.
How was it done in the Mishnah?
So over here we said it was done haitzah, but if you look at the example that the Mishnah brought when they were taking the kroshim onto the agalois. So you had a hachnasa there. The chayre, you had a hachnasa in the Mishkan itself. They took it from the ground and they put it up onto the agalis, which were at Rishus Hayachid. It was four.
Maybe it's not building; it's maybe dismantling.
Doesn't matter. We're not talking now about the building or the dismantling. When they brought it from the ground, they brought it up onto the agalis. The agalis were 10 tfachim high, 4 by 4 tfachim wide. It's a Rishus Hayachid. So the chayre, there was a hachnasa in the Mishkan. But here's the thing, when it comes to the Haitzah, Kanira being in the Mishkan is not enough to make it an Av. It has to be in the Mishkan and in the Pasik, because otherwise it's still a Malacha Grua. So Haitzah you have in the Pasik. And I believe this is also the hezbollah that it says in the Rishonim why it's considered to be a Tailda. Hagam, it's identical mamish, but by Haitzah there's a chiddush that even if it's identical, it's still a Tailda, if it's not in the Pasik. By other, if it's a Av or a Tailda, that's what the Gemara is going to ask right now. But that's the lashon of the Gemara. Okay. Kopanim. So there's a certain chiddush over here when you get to the malacha of Haitzah that it's a malacha grua. You need a pasuk for it, and nevertheless, hachnasa agam, it's identical to Haitzah. It's still considered to be a tailda. So the Gemara adds, miu, that it's a tailda. Right. Now the Gemara asks the shaila, mechti ahom chayev. Yechayev for both of them the same. So amai karile hai av, amai karile hai tailda. Why are we calling one an av and why are we calling one a tailda? In other words, is there any nafkamina if you refer to it as an av or and as a tailda of this av, or if I would say achnos is another av, would the chiyuv be any different? Answers the Gemara, yes. Nafkamina the ovid shtei ovis padi adodi. If you are going to do two of the ovis malachis, one together with the other, in other words, in the same shegig, so then you be chayiv twice. Inam shtei taildas padi adodi, or if you do two taildas of different ovis, chayiv tarti, you'd be chayiv twice. But the ovid av tailda didei, if you do an av and the tailda of that malacha, le mechayiv alachada, then you chayiv only once. So therefore he's telling you that hachnasa is not a separate av. You don't have one av haitzah and another av hachnasa, because then you'd be chayiv twice. The hachnasa is a tailda of this av, and therefore you chayiv only once if you did it in the same shegig.
If you only have 39 avos malachas, you never
Okay.
count the count.
Okay, theoretically, but you could always take another one out. Theoretically, if hachnasa would have been an av.
Like the minor mitzvahs.
Yeah, exactly. Ula Rabbi Lazar. Now, according to Rabbi Lazar, the mechayev atel de b'makim. His opinion is that you actually are chayev twice for a tailda in the place of the av. In other words, a tailda of this av. If you do the av and the tailda is the same shegig, you are chayev twice. That's Rabbi Lazar's opinion. The pshat in Rabbi Lazar, there's a big machlekes what exactly the pshat in Rabbi Lazar is. There's Rabbi Lazar hold that Enchanami has the same name, it's the same av, but the maisa is different. It's enough for the action of the malacha to be different that you're chayiv separately. Or, as the pshat in Rabbi Lazar's opinion, every tailda has its own shema malacha. Kaitzer, Tailish, which is a tailda of Kaitzer, even though it's a tailda of that malacha, but it has its own name, Ki'ilu, it's a malacha for itself, and therefore you chayiv twice. So amai karela av, amai karela tailda. What's the significance? What's the nafkamina that we're saying over here that Haitzah is an av and achnas is a tailda? And for the Gemara, hach tahavoy b'mishkan chashive karele av. What was found in the Mishkan and was significant in the Mishkan is referred to as an av. Hach deloyavi b'mishkan chashive. This that was not done in the Mishkan and was not significant in the Mishkan, loy karela av, is not referred to as an av. So, according to Rabbi Lazar, there's no nafkamina la halacha between an av and a tailda. the nafkamina is only benegea to what was in the Mishkan. Not only was in the Mishkan, but the Gemara actually adds the word chashiva. That's the girsa in our Gemara. Taisvis brings a girsa that takes out the word chashiva, but in our Gemara it says what was chashiv in the Mishkan is an av, what was not chashiv in the Mishkan is not an av.
So the Achnasa onto the Krashim wasn't Chashiv.
That's l'chayr what you have to say. Although why not? Why not? It was a very important malacha that they had to do to move it from one location to another. Huh? Now the Gemara says another pshat. Inami hach deksive kariyav. What applies over here to Hitzah. Regarding Hitzah, it's not enough for it to be in the Mishkan. Hach deksive kariyav. V'hai deloy ksive kari telda. What's not written is called a telda. So maybe the pshat in the Gemara over here is the inami is not a second pshat. The Gemara is saying legabe all the malachis. What was in the Mishkan is an av. What was not in the Mishkan is a telda. Legabe Hitzah and achnasa, you have to have both. You have to have that it's written in the pasuk as well. Okay. Now the Gemara goes on to Havaras Dal Damas Rishus Harabim, which we mentioned before. What's the source? Since we're saying that when it comes to the malacha of Hitzah, it has to be in the Mishkan, it has to be in the pasuk. So where is the source for the malacha of Havaras Dal Damas? Do we find it at least being in the Mishkan? To be a telda, at least a telda of Hitzah has to be in the Mishkan. Where do we find this? So this that we learned in the Mishnah. You throw something in the Rishus Harabim, 4 amas, and it lands on a wall in the Rishus Harabim. So Rashi says, we learned about this before already, that it was a dveila shmeina, was a fatty fig, and it landed and stuck to the wall. If it's higher than 10 tfachim, kizayrik ba'aver. It's like you're throwing it in the ear, and the higher than 10 tfachim is not part of the Rishus Harabim. It's a makim p'tur and you pater. If you threw it in the Rishus Harabim 4 amas below 4 tfachim,